10-9.
Okay. And I'm gonna add under, new business, the Lewiston Public Library. Okay, can I get a agenda approval as amended?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes from the September 22nd meeting?
I reviewed them and I make the motion to approve the minutes.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Abstract of claims, Councilman Myers.
October 16th, I move to approve the regular abstract of claims 25-02545 and 25-02746 and recommend total payment in the amount of $718,248.49. Post audit payment in the amount of $25,040.55.
Second.
The motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Department head statements from the clerk's office. Our special election that was held yesterday. Bridget?
So the special election held on October 15th, 2025, regarding the increased amount of service awards program for Lewiston number 2 of our Mountain and Sandboard Fire Company. 69 people came to the election. All 69 voted yes. There were no votes towards no.
So it passed 69 to nothing. So that's good news for our firemen and the support of our firemen. Now, do you know, do we have to take any action now? We already passed the resolution.
No, I don't think so at this point.
Okay.
I'll follow up with the Board of Elections and make sure that there's nothing further that we got certified by.
Okay. Highway Superintendent Mike Weiss wasn't here, so I will take his wood grinding services. We had the sealed bids. There were 4 sealed bids that were open on October 1st. Delaney's Lawn and Landscape is the lowest bidder at $14,483 total price. And I'll make a motion to award the wood grinding services to Delaney's Lawn and Landscape at $14,483.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And all those bids are available in the clerk's office as well. Jeff Ritter.
Good evening. I wanted to talk a little bit about smoke testing. The Morgan Farms area has been plagued by water problems for a long time. So in an effort to find out where the groundwater is entering the sanitary sewer, we'd like to initiate some smoke testing of the sanitary sewer in the Morgan Farms neighborhood. Now, smoke testing can be described as connecting a big fan over the top of a manhole and introducing liquid smoke, blows it down into the sewer system. The smoke finds its way through cracks in the pipes and faulty connections, and can show us where the water ends up getting into the sanitary sewer. The public needs to know that the smoke is non-toxic. There's a chance that if somebody has bad fixtures in their house, that the smoke could come in inside their house. Now, this is like the same kind of smoke that you might see at a rock concert or a magic show or something like that. It's non-toxic, not offensive smelling. It will not affect the health of those that smell it. But what it'll do is it'll detect potential defects, sources of infiltration in the sewer system, and expose faulty sewer connections. I'm looking to put out some postings on Facebook and the town's website with a letter of intent and maybe a material safety data sheet which shows what the chemical makeup is of this liquid smoke.
Okay.
And before we start, I'll probably hand deliver to everyone in the neighborhood and let them know what we're going to do.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we'll jump right over to Bob Lane in engineering, because Bob will add to what you just talked about.
Okay, there's been a whole lot going on.
with not only the storm sewer, but the sanitary sewer as well in Morgan Farms. So, at the last board meeting, the board had authorized us to, deploy some flow metering. The next morning, a total of 8 flow meters were installed in the collection system throughout Morgan Farms, and has been collecting data ever since. We've got some good dry weather. We did capture, the recent rainstorm that ran through, was about it peaked at intensity about 1.5 inches an hour, and I think total we got about 2 inches in that rainstorm, give or take a little bit. So we're about 3 weeks into a 3-month data collection period, but, so far so good. That's working out well. That will also tell us from a flow characteristic standpoint where the flow's coming in and what impacts it may have to the collection system in Morgan Farms. Also in Morgan Farms, we have done a bit of work there. We have done a topographic survey right-of-way to right-of-way, throughout the Morgan Farms area. We have taken that and developed a computer model, okay, to say, okay, how are the existing pipes functioning, and what we would propose to improve in the area in terms of larger pipes, greater storm sewer capacity and conveyance, and with some new outfalls in and around the Morgan Farms area. So there's been a lot of work going on with that. We have certainly a meeting tomorrow to discuss some of those options as well. Likewise, for woodland and forest, we have done a similar exercise up there where we've done a topographic survey, and input that data in also to a model, and have determined that the existing, storm sewer system is not as robust as we'd like. So we have some suggestions on what some improvements there might look like. And then lastly, up at Elm and Hanover, there was a site visit held with several department heads. October, I think it was 8th, if I'm not mistaken, and we had in conversation with some of the neighbors and doing a site walk with a bunch of folks, found what we believe is the problem. We hope it is the extent of the problem. Looks like was some collapsed sewer pipe in the area that was uncovered by Jeff and his team doing the CCTV work. What we need to do now is just to look at the continuation of that storm pipe to make sure that there's no other obstructions that we may find. Hopefully we won't, and then we can limit the improvements to a few hundred feet of basically replacement in kind storm sewer up in that area. So big going on. So.
And I know Councilman Morial and myself were there that day, and we definitely saw some issues up there, and hopefully those can be resolved. So, and also we just touch base on Cliff Road and what's going on there. I know they're almost done there.
Yep, Cliff Road, again, that's also same type of thing. Did topographic survey, ran the model, and then we developed and designed some improvements into that area. There is the old railroad ditch there that kind of runs in an east-west direction, and there was some storm contributions from up on Sullivan Court that were basically within the right-of-way, but not in the roadway, if you will. That was complicating a little bit of the flow characteristics there, so we designed a new storm system, and it's about 1,300, 1,400 feet of 36-inch diameter sewer to take the flow from the railroad ditch and Sullivan, take it out into the roadway from on the other side of the curb essentially, and take it dead straight down Cliff Road and down across Lewis 104 there in an existing culvert. So good. Yeah. Bit of work there that the town has been undertaking.
Does anybody have any questions about?
I got Jeff. When did you plan on doing this work study?
We'd like to start it by the end of the month.
Okay, right, great. And then when will those reports be available for review? Just,
We have a meeting tomorrow with the department heads, so they should be anytime after that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Bob. Moving on with department head statements. Anything else from the clerk's office?
We'll be changing the town website, the domain to a .gov domain, and that is due to legislation that passed, and we have to do it by the end of December. So we'll be doing that next week. So all of the emails and the website will now be townoflewistonny.gov instead of what it used to be, just townoflewiston.us. So we'll be making that transition overnight on Monday, and then Tuesday I'll be around and our IT person will be around to help people, but I have it on the website kind of announcing it so people will see that it's coming when they're, everything will be redirected to the new emails, to the new website, and we'll get through this transition.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, Captain, anything?
Nothing.
Nothing to report? Jackie, you're on the agenda, Deputy Supervisor President, anything? Dan Zano? I know you, well, come on, you had a water break, come on, fill us in.
We need 2 water breaks in a circle, within 30 feet of each other.
And that's one of the areas that you've got a flag.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Al?
I was just handed, a resolution, but I could probably handle it during your regular agenda.
Okay.
I have nothing to add specifically, but I think I can handle it during the other agenda, that's fine.
Okay. Nothing under old pending business. Under new business, we welcome, who wants to go first, Jill Palermo or Chris from the library?
Mr. Ritter, we're gonna come up together if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
Supervisor Broderick, honorable members of town board, other officials, and members of the public. I'd like to introduce myself again. My name is Chris Ronaldo. I'm the Lewiston Library President Board of Trustees, and with me is our dedicated director, Jill Palermo, and of course board member Fred Queso as well. Thank you very much for having us.
I just wanted to thank the town board for the funding you provide the library, and I just want to let you know how important it is to everything we can offer the community with what you give us. We have so many programs, materials, and services. I'm sure everyone knows libraries are not just books. We have technology. We have so many educational programs. We have people that come in every day just to read the newspaper. We have people that gather for adult programs, children's programs. We have game nights. We have chess club. We have so many different things. And just some of our statistics from last year, our library visits, we had over 57,000 people come to the library for whatever reason. We have over 6,000 registered borrowers. And as I said, our children's programs, we have 3 different for different ages. We had 233 children's programs last year, and we had over 4,000 people attending those. We also offer computer help and technology. There's so many people that come in that are unfamiliar with everything so digital now, and especially senior citizens, and they don't know how to apply for certain services, so they come to the library and we help them one-on-one. We also have a trainer through our Neoga library system that comes in and offers training once a month for whatever gadget, phone, iPad, whatever they want to bring in and get help with. So I think we do really important work for the community. I think we're appreciated, and we certainly appreciate all the funding you provide us to continue our services.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Jill?
You have your, I don't know, what is it, like, you honor a special employee there?
Oh, the Friends? You make the friendly gathering that's
Yeah,
coming up?
that's October 20?
29th. It's a Wednesday from 6 to 8. So the Friends of the Library is a fundraising group that helps the library, but they also recognize Volunteer of the Year. Every year an award that started through, if everyone knows Mamie Simonson. Dee Simonson started that in her honor. So this year it's, yes, Wednesday, October 29th from 6 to 8.
And come and buy tickets before?
You can buy them before or at the door.
Thank you.
Mr. Ritter and members of the board, I just want to again say thank you very much also for the funding. We know that you're a valuable partner in the community with the library, and we think the library is an incredible asset for the community. It's a part of, it's a place where people can come together, and we want to make sure that that continues for future generations to come. So we really thank you very much for all the support you will be bringing us in the future. And I do want to just take a moment to specifically thank Mr. Jacoby, who has been our liaison for a number of years now, and always available to us and always accessible and there to visit with us at our meetings. And I just want to wish you well as you go on into your retirement from public service.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your service.
they estimated it 3 years ago at $100,000. There's some more engineering that needs to go into it, and there's actually two air conditioning units that I believe are brand new that they can't hook up because the electrical's so old and a mess. So what I would like to do is make a resolution to, provide up to $150,000 of, H98 money to the village for the electric upgrade on the red grid.
Is there a motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I'm really glad to be able to help them out with that. They actually put a new roof on the gym. The gym was leaking about 3 months ago, so that's where I think some of the money went prior. So this will be just for the electric. They can't use it for anything else, and that'll probably go out to bid in the next month. So glad to help. Al, you want to go over your resignation letter?
Sure.
No?
Sure, not a problem.
Yep.
So I've submitted a resignation letter to the town, for a period of 1 day. As you all may be aware, I'm also a part-time public defender, and I'm retiring from my obligations there for my employ with Niagara County. In so doing, I'm not allowed to work in any place on the day after I retire. I have to resign effectively from every place that contributes to my NYSERDA's pension. That being said, town of Lewiston, and I also teach at UB, I have to resign for a day from there, with the idea that if it pleases the town board, that I reinstate on November 1st or the Monday thereafter, to my services here. I did include in my letter that I thought that, Mr. Seymour was retiring on November 1st. I guess that was an error on my part, but I was willing to step up and take over his responsibility if and when that actually happens. I believe it's January 1st, not November 1st. But that being said, I'm here, at the service of the town, so.
Okay. So, need a motion to accept Al's resignation from the position of town attorney effective the end of business day hours on October 30th, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. I would also take the opportunity to make a motion to hire Al back on November 1st
Sure, that's fine.
as the attorney for the town at the same contractual rate that we're doing now.
That's fine.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Anybody have any questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Motion carried. Okay, that takes care of that.
Give it time for 1 day.
So legal, start with the fire protection services agreement.
So if I can, the town had signed a contract with the village relative to Lewiston number 1. And in that contract, it spelled out the town's obligation relative to the LoSAP or the retirement contributions that we do for the volunteer firemen. Recently, there's been negotiations and an increase for the other volunteer fire companies because the village is the purveyor, if you will, or the manager of the volunteer fire company in the village. The town contracts with the village. That's what we went, for the other 3 fire companies was the purpose of the mandatory referendum that we did. With the village, it's a little simpler. We just wanted to modify the contract that we already have in place. And if I look at the contract, I believe it's paragraph 6, sub 1, or sub little lowercase I. And this is the only thing that we're gonna be acting on, is basically modifying the prior contract to include the following language. Basically saying at paragraph 6I, for so long as the service awards program is in effect for the benefit of the fire company, as adopted by the village, the town agrees to pay the village each year a sum equal to $300 multiplied by the number of vested firefighters of the fire company. So that language is being amended So I would need an approval, number one, for that modified language, effectively an amendment to the contract, and secondly, authorization for the supervisor to sign, the amended contract. And I could tell the board that it's going in front of the village trustees on the 20th of this month, so in a few days, it'll be in front of them for approval.
John, do you wanna make that motion?
Yeah, I would, and I would say that, as everyone knows, it's very difficult to get volunteer firemen, because everyone's so busy, they're so busy. And this goes a long way in attracting them, and giving them some small award, for the work they do. Yeah, I'd like to definitely make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And one more, John?
I'd like to make the motion that we authorize supervisor to sign that document.
That's right, the amended contract.
The amended contract.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And lastly, Mr. Supervisor, I apologize to the board for this coming last minute. Mr. Seaman and I have been working closely together relative to the activity on Town Line Road. As you're aware, the pumpkin farm that was out there and some of the neighbor complaints and issues with our building department have recently been addressed with the town board and council for both Mr. King and the neighbors effectively. But that being said, there's been some walks out there, as you're aware. The lawsuit was withdrawn without prejudice in order to allow for this particular settlement to move forward. Mr. Seaman has provided me with a resolution that he'd like the board to consider, and I'll read that into the record for you. You could either take action on it tonight or table it. It would be your call, but let me read it into the record so that everyone is aware of what it says. Town of Lewiston resolution, whereas Kyle King, operating as Niagara Pumpkin Farms, parentheses, the applicant, end parentheses, conducts seasonal activities at 5368 Town Line Road, identified at SBL number 118.00-2-15.1, parentheses, the parcel, end parentheses, within the town of Lewiston, New York. And whereas the town of Lewiston, parentheses, the town, end parentheses, recognizes and acknowledges that historically there have been legal actions related to town code enforcement and land use issues related to the parcel and the uses thereon, and that up until recently, certain of those legal actions were ongoing and pending. And whereas the applicant has submitted an application for site plan approval and special use permit before the town of Lewiston Planning Board and was scheduled to be first heard and considered on September 18, 2025, only days prior to the anticipated 6-week opening window of the Niagara Pumpkin Farm, but that such application was formally withdrawn by the applicant, thereby foreclosing the opportunity for planning board review and determination prior to the seasonal operation. And whereas the town board recognizes that operations on the parcel have occurred for a number of years predating the 2025 fall season, and further recognizes that the typical planning board process would likely have required multiple sessions, making timely approval prior to the 2025 season impracticable, and thereby creating the potential for pecuniary loss to the applicant. And whereas the town board retains ultimate approval authority over site plan and special use permit applications in the town of Lewiston. And whereas, prior to commencement of the 2025 operating season, the applicant permitted full site visitation and inspection by the town building inspector and fire inspector, and the applicant committed to implementation of all safety recommendations, including but not limited to increasing the number and quality of fire extinguishers on site, limiting sound production to agreed upon hours, relocating certain generators, restricting parking along Town Line Road, increasing on-site and off-site parking facilities, temporarily closing the facility in the event of parking overflow, increasing staffing relating to supervision of open fires and parking, adding no smoking signage, and ensuring clear and consistent access for emergency and fire equipment. And whereas the town board finds that these voluntary mitigation measures, along with the unique procedural posture of the applicant's withdrawn application, provide sufficient basis to defer code enforcement activities for the 2025 operating season while preserving public health and safety. And whereas the applicant acknowledged and understood that beginning with the 2026 operating season, full compliance with the town code, including submission of all required applications to the Town of Lewiston Planning Board, will be required for future lawful operations. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Lewiston as follows. Number one, the Town of Lewiston hereby defers code enforcement activities for Kyle King / Niagara Pumpkin Farms at 5368 Town Line Road, SBL number 118.00-2-15.1 for the 2025 calendar year. Two, this action shall not be construed as granting site plan approval, a special use permit, or any other form of zoning code or town authorization for operations on the parcel. Number three, this resolution is expressly limited to deferral of enforcement of code enforcement activities for that specific parcel during the 2025 calendar year for this applicant only and does not establish precedent for any future deferral or waiver of town code requirements for this parcel or any other parcel within the town of Lewiston. That is the resolution. Again, you could, based on what you heard, act on it tonight, or if you'd like to table it, you certainly can and move on to the next board meeting.
Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion, we act on it tonight, I reviewed it earlier, we don't have an issue with it.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second?
I second it with a
Okay.
question.
We have a motion, a second, questions?
Just, in your opinion, it's as tight as we could possibly get, right?
All I can tell you is that both Tim Masters and our fire inspectors walked the property.
Yeah.
They, as I had discussed.
Ed Zimmerman.
I think our fire inspectors did too, didn't they?
Yeah, but Ed
I
Zimmerman,
apologize,
not Tim Masters.
instead of Tim Masters, I apologize. So Ed Zimmerman, part of our building department, obviously, and the fire inspectors walked it. And they were not going out there with an eye to approve. They were going out there with an eye for public safety, as I mentioned before. And I've always said to the public that the town board's first priority is public safety. They went through, my understanding is that the Kings were accommodating, they allowed it, and to date, and again, this is only from my personal perspective, I had a conversation with the supervisor earlier about it, I have not heard that there was a phone call to the town hall or any complaints. There's been no complaints that have come to my office, and I've asked people that have approached me before to call me with any concerns or complaints. So I'm very pleased with how things have come off thus far. I believe that the itemized list that is in this resolution is exactly what was agreed upon as part of my withdrawing the order to show cause and part of Mr. Seaman's efforts relative to the planning board. So I am comfortable with it also.
Thanks, Ted.
Do you know?
Yes, I have
Question, just for one, like limiting sound production to agreed upon hours, do we know any more details?
I was told they were shutting down at 8 p.m.
That's my recollection also.
Yeah, all right, so, yeah, I have a few questions. One of mine was, there is no explicit hours of operation. They're relocating certain generators. Is there a map of locations? So in case they get moved around, we actually have agreed upon location for them?
I know Mr. Zimmerman has already.
Okay, all right, and then as far as the restricting parking along Town Line Road, what is that going to look like? Who is going to enforce that?
The applicant knows, and that would be the Kings, they understand. They could still be subject to concurrent violations of town code. So just because the lawsuit was withdrawn, their operation on a day-to-day basis can violate town code, and one of them is they cannot park on town line.
Okay,
So there's been a number of drive-bys, there have been neighbors on Town Line Road that have complained before, that have been advised by myself, and my understanding is Mr. Zimmerman, to contact either himself or myself if there are any violations, so that we can take it up with the applicant. There haven't been any of those calls. My understanding is also that on a number of drive-bys, while the operations have been going on, that the Kings have been keeping all of the parking on their parcel. And so they've been abiding by that request thus far, as of
Okay,
October
now,
16th.
as far as like the overflow parking, cause I know that he's got the entire
They were instructed that if they feel that overflow parking is necessary, to contract with someone, whether they need a shuttle from another lot somewhere.
Okay.
And it would be up to them. I can't speak to exactly what that is in their business plan, but just so long as it doesn't involve parking on the road.
Okay, right, what I'm worried about is that now we're gonna have this, big parking path that's gonna now go through everything and into the back of the lot.
I don't believe it's on-site parking. It would involve them being instructed to park off-site and somehow being brought back to,
Okay.
with the shuttle or some other nature.
Okay, and then, going on to the temporary closing of the facility, what does that look like? How is that gonna be monitored? Are they just going to be like parking lots full, we're gonna pull a rope, you can't come in?
That's right. They were supposed to be refusing patrons until a later hour when
Okay.
people left.
Okay.
It does lend itself to self-governance.
Yeah, it
but-
does. A
But,
lot of it
but the
does.
Kings have a lot to lose here.
Okay.
I would just, they understand how significant this is, and with the fact that a restraining order was placed on them just before the open, you see, they understand that. And I think they understand that Mr. Zimmerman is trying to work with them, not necessarily against them. And that the best way to accomplish their goals and the town's goals is to work together.
All right, yeah, 'cause I worry about just the enforcement of it. The other last thing that I have, does he plan to operate anything during the Christmas holiday season, or is he done at this, juncture after Halloween?
My understanding is that the Halloween season is the only one that will be operating.
Now, after this year, they have to go through the zoning and any board start all over again.
There are plans for them to submit their application, if not December, first thing after the first of the year.
So they don't want any violations this year, but that'll be brought up.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what I said, they have a lot to lose. I mean, the lawsuit that has been withdrawn, again, if it needed to be filed tomorrow, could be re-signed and filed again. I'm thankful that we haven't been given a reason to do that yet. I'm hoping that the trajectory of the project, together with the lack of complaints is sign that we're heading in the right direction.
Okay, so as far as with the neighborhood, I don't wanna say agreement, that's not the right word. But I guess the temperature with the neighbors, they feel that this is something that they can cohabitate with, at least for this season.
I can't speak for what their position is. I would imagine that there's probably some disappointment that things haven't been squelched entirely, but I have explained to the neighbors that I've spoken to that the town board only has the ability to enforce public safety in the town law. That our obligation is to allow what's legal and to stop what is illegal or public safety and provides a hazard to the residents. So I think they understand the board's place. Certainly if a neighbor has any ongoing concerns while the operations are within the scope of the law or within the framework of the law, they certainly have the ability to file a civil lawsuit themselves. But the town's purview is going to be enforcing our laws that are on the books, and I believe between Mr. Seaman's efforts and my own, that we're doing that.
And moving forward, I do know that the town board will have to make a decision next year on what will be allowed and what won't be allowed. So it ultimately falls on the town board's decision, but it needs to happen early in 2026, not 2 days before.
No, I get that, and I know that there's a lot of the tourism laws as far as with, New York State, that we also don't have in our code as far as, we've got nothing as far as agritourism is concerned.
I've been instructed and I've done some research on temporary uses. So as sort of a makeshift modification of our town zoning law, that I'll be presenting to the board in the next couple of months.
Okay, as far as like putting this type of a farm underneath a temporary?
It's not specific to that, but it would be authorizing certain uses that are not within our current zoning code for short periods of time under the direction of the town board and the zoning, the planning board.
And it can also be addressed in the comprehensive thankful you're on that board.
Absolutely. So, all right, thank you
Okay,
so much.
you're very welcome. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Engineering, anything else, Bob?
No, Mr. Sardo.
Finance, Jackie?
I previously submitted two 2025 budget revisions for the board's review, and tonight I ask for approval of those two.
I reviewed them with Jackie today, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Councilman Jacoby, anything?
No, we pretty much covered it with the fire pension.
Okay. Councilman Morial?
I have a sewer forgiveness for Rhett and Amy Tompkins on 4649 Berman Drive. A new pool with 18,000 gallons. The sewer part of it is, the amount is $74.54. I'm making a motion that we approve, the sewer forgiveness on that. This was also approved by Jeff Glitter.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I have a resolution to read. It's in support of Congressman Nick Langworthy's Energy Choice Act. Parentheses, H.R.3699, S.1945, in opposition to government mandated natural gas bans. Whereas affordable and reliable energy is essential to the health, safety, and economic prosperity of the New York families, businesses, and communities. And whereas natural gas remains a dependable, cost-effective, and clean-burning energy source used by millions of New Yorkers to heat their homes, cook their food, and power their businesses. And whereas in 2019, New York State enacted the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, parentheses, CLCPA, which mandates aggressive emission reductions and serves as the foundation for sweeping energy restrictions, including efforts to phase out natural gas. And whereas building on the CLCPA, Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York State Legislature in 2023 enacted provisions in the state budget banning natural gas and other fossil fuel hookups in most new residential commercial buildings. Effective 2026 for smaller buildings and in 2029 for larger buildings, thereby eliminating consumer choice and limiting access to affordable energy. And whereas Governor Hochul has publicly supported these bans and related measures as part of her administration's climate and energy agenda, despite widespread concerns that such mandates will increase costs, strain grid reliability, and restrict energy diversity. And whereas these top-down policies undermine affordability, threaten reliability during peak demand, and strip away the freedom of consumers and businesses to choose the energy sources that best meets their needs. And whereas Congressman Nick Langworthy of New York and Senator Jim Justice of West Virginia introduced the Energy Choice Act, parentheses H.R.3699, S.1945, federal legislation that ensures state and local governments cannot restrict consumer access to natural gas and other affordable energy sources, thereby protecting freedom of choice for New Yorkers and all Americans. And whereas the Energy Choice Act will safeguard households, small businesses, hospitals, farmers, and manufacturers from harmful government overreach, preserve access to an all of the above energy strategy that strengthens reliability and affordability. Now, therefore be it resolved that the town of Lewiston Town Board strongly supports Energy Choice Act, is introduced by Congressman Langworthy, parentheses H.R.3699, and the Senator Justice, parentheses S.1945, and stands firmly opposed to New York State's natural gas bans. The CLCPA-driven restrictions and other state energy mandates that eliminate consumer choice, and be it further resolved that the town of Lewiston Town Board urges Congress to pass the Energy Choice Act to defend consumer choice, protect energy affordability, and preserve reliability access to natural gas for New Yorkers. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be sent to Congressman Nick Langworthy and Senator Jim Justice from the New York Congressional Delegation, Senators Chuck Schumer and Kristen Gillibrand from Governor Kathy Hochul, in the leadership of the New York State Legislature.
That's a motion, can I
That's a
get a
motion.
second? We have a motion and a second, all in favor? Okay.
Just
Go ahead.
wanna make a statement on it. Although I do not agree with some of the language that is written in the resolution, I believe it is a little harsh. I do believe that we do have to make, better choices as far as our energy consumption. But I will say that here in Western New York, we do have that issue that we do get burdened by frequent snowstorms. And I do think that gas offers an alternative for us that live in these colder climates. So I do, agree on that issue, and I also do agree the fact that we don't have the grid right now that can maintain and withstand everybody across New York State converting to electric. I understand that, and so therefore I will support the resolution, but I will not support the harsh, language.
Anybody else wanna make a comment?
I'd like to say I concur with, Sarah, because you can write these resolutions without a lot of editorial overreach. But the issue in and of itself is so important for a lot of people. Many of my neighbors have the generators, and when the power goes out, I'm very jealous. And I would hate to see a time when we don't have the, natural gas available to run the generators, heat our homes. So, I'm gonna vote for it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you for your comments.
Just a roll call on that.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Supervisor Broderick,
Yes.
Councilman, Jacoby,
Yes.
Councilman Myers,
Yes.
Councilman Morial.
Yes.
Councilman Wacker.
Yes.
Okay, Councilman Myers.
Just a couple of reminders from the Sanborn Historical Society, they have their ham dinner on Saturday, 4 to 7, until it's sold out, which includes ham, scalloped potatoes, wedding cabbage, squash, applesauce, cornbread, and dessert. And that's $16 for adults, kids are $5, and then they also have their regular meeting coming up towards the end of the month on October 28th at 7 p.m. Up at the Farm Museum with speaker series, songs and stories of the year down by Don Dwyer, and that's at 7 p.m.
And I will say you will never get a better meal for $16 on ham dinner at St. Louis Farm Museum, especially with Glenn Wenke's wedding cabbage. Yeah, the wedding cabbage is worth the trip. Thank you. Councilwoman Wachter.
All right, yes, we'll take care of business first, and then I also have an announcement. So I would like to make a motion, that we accept the bid. It is for the senior center bathroom and kitchen renovations. They were done by sealed bids. We had a walkthrough a couple of weeks ago. We had one sealed bid that was opened yesterday, October 15th, 2025. It was Tuscarora Roofing and Siding, and they are the only bidder and the lowest bidder. The bid came in at $79,000.
you know, this is costing me as well. And, while I would like to see it in as soon as possible, I wanna make sure that the taxpayers of the town aren't paying out, any reward for litigating against the town, particularly based on Ms. Burke's comments. And Al, I'm sure you can get a copy of the transcript.
I have some of the correspondence here.
But I think that the transcript from, and see exactly what, Ms. Fergie, explained to the judge as to, you know, why there was irreconcilable, differences, at this juncture, for making any transaction. I would have no idea if there are any settlement discussions, whether that's something that would come to the board sooner or later. But certainly there's been a history of the plaintiffs postponing the case. They've already asked for one extension, I think through the end of January. I don't think they're allowed to ask the appellate court for another one through the end of February. So it's not exactly, you know, urgent as far as the court schedule is concerned. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention and wish us all Godspeed on this one.
Thank you. I have a letter I'd like to read. This was a correspondence from September 29th. It says, "To whom it may concern," that would be us. On Saturday, 9/12/2025, we had a major water line break at 5929 Garlow Road, our home. Jeff Dell was the first to respond from the water department. He accessed the damage, or assessed the damage, and called for assistance. A short time later, a full crew responded. It took some time to locate the damaged line and repair it. There it was, a large hole in the middle of our 2-year-old driveway. Mr. Zano, water department, assured me that the driveway will be properly repaired. Since then, the damaged material was removed, stone and topsoil were brought in, everything is looking better. Mr. Zano informed me that a crew would be back in the spring with blacktop and topsoil to complete the job, allowing the stone and topsoil to settle. We feel it is necessary and proper to thank the water department for the fast and professional work on a Saturday AM, which they didn't mind at all, mind you. The entire crew was informative and friendly towards us, and I added the Saturday was not a problem for our water department.
That was one of two water breaks. There's another one on the side.
Oh, boy, it's even more expensive. Sincerely, James and Phyllis Gilliam, homeowners. So kudos to the water department.
Yeah,
So, with that, we have upcoming boards and commission meetings.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes.
Al, were you gonna read something?
No, but what I can tell you, relative to Ms. Whittrell's comments is that the motion was on for withdrawal of counsel on behalf of one of the plaintiffs, as she had mentioned. From the plaintiff's papers, it indicates that there's been an irretrievable breakdown of the relationship or a conflict between the law office and some of the plaintiffs. That was the only remedy that was requested, and as Ms. Whittrell said, that it was granted today. I believe that Lipsitz Green, Schmidt, and Cambria only represent Ms. Copeland at this point. That's, again, reading from the paperwork and from what Ms. Whittrell has reported. I could say that there has been no discussion of settlement. We have won the motion for summary judgment or for dismissal up front. Again, I think the jockeying between them just signals trouble in the ranks as far as they're concerned. As far as a division of 70%, 30%, I think there was again, this is me reading between the lines, and I don't know, but some concern about how the legal fees were being paid. That's all I could surmise. But there's been no discussion of settlement from the town, I can say that for sure.
Upcoming boards and commission meetings. Planning board is October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Our regular town board meeting is October 27th at 6 p.m. Historic preservation, tentatively November 11th.
We'll keep it tentatively, had some discussion, but we'll see where they.
5:45 p.m. and our zoning board of appeals, November 13th at 6 p.m. With that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. .gov will, update that. So with that, I'd